Hello, welcome to a video from unbapu.com. Today I will be showing you what I is and what the powers of I are. So I means imaginary number. You need to get that in your head. I means the imaginary number. It is not real in the mathematical sense. However, it can and is a number. For instance, I means I equals the square root of -1. What does that mean? That means that a lot of times mathematicians tried to solve equations. Like there would be equations like x squared plus 1 equals 0. So they would go to x squared equals -1. And since no number squared could be -1, they used to leave it and say no solutions. But eventually they thought that we should have a solution so we know what it is. So they devised that it would be x would be equal to the positive and the negative square roots of -1. And now we call it I. So it's equal to the positive and the negative I. Now let us discuss the powers of I. So when we want to square I, so we know that I equals the square root of -1. So if we want to square it, it's pretty obvious that the I squared is equal to -1. But a lot of smart people are going to go and say, well, if I squared equals I times I, that equals the square root of -1 times the square root of -1 equals the square root of -1 squared equals square root of 1 equals 1. These kinds of calculations are strictly forbidden when we talk about I. So I equals square root of -1. I squared is equal to -1. What is I cubed? I cubed is -1 times I, or negative I. I to the fourth, same thing, negative I times I. So negative I times I equals negative I squared, or -1 times -1. 1. So we've got I to the fifth. We get 1 times I is I. I to the sixth equals I times I, or -1. I to the seventh, -1 times I, or negative I. And I to the eighth, negative I times I, or 1. So wait, what? We see a pattern. I, -1, negative I, 1. I, -1, negative I, 1. This will always repeat when we talk about I. So whenever you want to calculate the powers of I, say if you get I to the nth power, what you should do is you should take the remainder of n divided by 4, or as you write it in math, n x mod 4, or what the remainder would be after you divided n by 4. Whatever that is, if it's 1, you would write I. If it's 2, you'd write -1. If it's 3, you'd write negative I. If it's 4, you'd write 1. So now let's move to an example. So we have the problem I to the 6,429. So what do? So let's calculate the remainder when you divide it by 4. In order to do that, you look at the last two digits, 29, and the remainder of that divided by 4. And so 29 has a remainder of 1 when you divide it by 4. So since it has a remainder of 1, remember, I, -1, negative I, 1. So I to the 6,429, just I. Super easy, right? So, thank you for watching my video. To support me, on the left is the subscribe button. On the two more videos that you guys can watch in order to learn math. Thank you.